The Bridgewater Triangle. Paranormal Investigators.
What's up, spooky friends, and welcome to the channel, the Bridgewater Triangle Paranormal Investigators. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Smash that subscribe button and make sure to hit that notification bell and make sure to like this video. Yes, I know it's a lot of demands, but get ready for a good show, because today I want to talk about a certain cryptid that's found in the Bridgewater Triangle. So, what is the Bridgewater Triangle? Well, it's a triangular region that's found out here in southeast Massachusetts, with the town of Abington at the north, Rehoboth at the southwest, and Freetown at the southeast, with all kinds of paranormal activity in it, ranging from cryptids to ghostly activity, UFOs, and cults. Now, the term the Bridgewater Triangle was coined by Loren Coleman, a cryptozoologist, in the early 80s when he came out to this region to investigate all these cryptids that people were witnessing in the Hockomock swamp. Now, the term Hockomock meant place where spirits dwell. It was a sacred burial ground to the natives, and it's just under 17,000 acres of wetland. Now, it's been believed by some that the Wampanoag native tribe cursed this land ever since they lost to King Philip's War, which was the war between the natives and the early American settlers. While some others believe that it's a vortex that's releasing all these anomalies due to the negative energy that's imbued into the land from King Philip's War. Because people have witnessed a phenomena right here in this region, especially inside the Hockomock swamp with all these cryptids, such as the classic Bigfoot, giant snakes the size of stovepipes, puckwudgies also known as skinwalkers, and the classic Thunderbird. Now let's talk about the Thunderbird, because that's actually one of my favorite cryptids, and there's a reason why. Now, this story takes place on a summer day when I was a kid back in the year 1996, many, many moons ago, which actually, looking back, makes me feel very old. Anyway, I used to live on the west side of Brockton, which actually is inside the Bridgewater Triangle. However, me and a childhood friend of mine named Troy, we used to love to ride our bikes around the old neighborhood. One particular area where we used to love to ride our bikes was behind Brockton High School. There used to be the old quad trails behind there, which are actually filled in now. So one day we were riding up and down the old trails, and for some particular reason we got off our bicycles, and I don't really remember why. But anyway, I was talking to Troy, and I noticed that he looked up in the sky, and he said, "Oh shit," and he runs off into the tall grass and hides, and I'm thinking, what is he so afraid of? So as I turned around, the tree branches, the brush was blowing like crazy. It sounded like a car driving on all four flat tires. And as I turned around, I noticed this big, humongous bird in the sky, probably about 3 stories up, and he actually resembled the condor from the original King Kong movie. And each wingspan on this bird was probably larger than an old 1978 Lincoln Town Car. And he was flying towards me, and the only thing I could think of was, oh god, this bird is massive. I hope he doesn't mistake me for a worm and scoop me up and carry me on his way. Now, this bird looked very old. He actually was missing fur. He had patches. Some areas actually looked like old brown, worn-out suede. And his fur was all knotted up. He had cobwebs and twigs caught in there. So you can tell that this bird had been crashing through the trees. Now, as this bird continued to fly towards me, his eyes and my eyes made contact. And the weird thing is, I wasn't afraid anymore. I realized that this bird was just going to continue to fly towards wherever it was that he was going. Now, as this bird flew over me, his fur went everywhere. The cattails from the marsh, they actually opened up from all the wind that this bird created, and he flew south, going towards the Hockomock swamp. And again, I was just a kid, so I never even heard of the Hockomock swamp or the Bridgewater Triangle. Now, my friend Troy, he came out of hiding, and he was like, "Harry, did you see the size of that bird? It was huge." And of course, I'm just trying to be the brave one, so I'm just like, yeah, I saw it. I knew it wasn't a threat. Now, being a kid, I was thinking that this was just some rare species of a bird that I never seen before. But in reality, I was actually relieved that this bird flew away. So the next day, I was excited to tell the story. I actually told the story to my mother, and naturally she thought because I was a small child that any bird in the sky would appear to be huge and stand out. So over the years, we didn't talk about the story anymore. I kind of forgot about it. My friend Troy, he ended up moving from the old neighborhood. So the story now became ancient history. It was a forgotten memory. Now, many years later, in the year 2007, me and a couple buddies of mine, we were bored one night, so we snuck up to the old tuberculosis hospital in Hanson because we heard it was haunted, and that's when I saw my very first apparition. Now, the next following year, I was telling my friend about my ghostly encounter at this tuberculosis hospital in Hanson. Now, she was under the impression that Hanson was inside the Bridgewater Triangle, even though it's not. And when I told her the story, she turns around and tells me, "Well, Harry, that's because you live in the Bridgewater Triangle." And I said to her, "Well, what is that?" And she looked at me and she started laughing, and she goes, "Harry, you lived in this region how long now and you never heard of the Bridgewater Triangle? Even I heard of it, and I'm not even from the state." So I said, "No, I never heard of this Bridgewater Triangle. What is it?" So she started to explain that it was a region where the natives cursed the land, and I stopped her right there and I said, "Well, a region doesn't have to be cursed for ghostly activity." And she started saying, "Well, Harry, people have seen UFOs, they have encountered Bigfoots," and I'm just thinking, oh, okay, yeah, sure, Bigfoots, really? So at this point, I'm literally laughing now, hysterical, and she said, "No, Harry, it's not funny. People have seen stranger things, such as Thunderbirds flying around in the sky." And as soon as she said that, a light bulb went off in my head, and I started to remember the incident that I had when I was a kid. So I said, "Wait a minute now, hold up. Did you just mention a Thunderbird? Because you're bringing back all kinds of memories, and I think I remember seeing this bird." And she goes, "Yeah, see, Harry, I'm not making it up. It's because you live in the Bridgewater Triangle." So she started to research this region on her computer. So it was ever since then that I took an interest in this area, and that's why I formed together the Bridgewater Triangle Paranormal Investigators, to investigate all the hotspots in this region, as well as outside the triangle, all throughout Massachusetts. Now, there has been several other encounters with this Thunderbird creature. In 1971, a Norton police officer, Thomas Downey, witnessed seeing a Thunderbird when driving home in Easton late at night at the edge of the swamp, in a place ironically known as Bird Hill. There was a report that in the late 80s, two young boys were walking through the Hockomock swamp, and they witnessed seeing a big giant bird with human-like features. And around the same time in the late 80s, there was a bunch of kids playing wiffle ball on the east side of Brockton, when they all witnessed a similar-looking bird with human-like features that flew going towards Massasoit Community College. And they described the bird to look like a Mothman, and then later on in life they described the bird to look like the monster from the movie Jeepers Creepers. So we will continue to investigate to bring you guys new evidence, because that's what we're in search for, the truth. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. I try to upload a video at least every 2 weeks. Sometimes I do get a little bit busy, so if that happens, I'll upload a video at least every once a month. And thanks for listening, and remember, stay spooky.